we have two of the best franchises in the world right now going head-to-head in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. I mean, you can't ask for a better game.
I will never complain about getting a chance to watch greatness.
Welcome to the No Days Off podcast by Dad Season. We have a bonus episode. This week we have a big game, Super Bowl 59 versus the Kansas City Chiefs and my Philadelphia Eagles. I get to be here with my brother-in-law, Evan Moore. Played in the NFL for 5 years. We talk a lot of ball, watch a lot of games now. Six. Bad.
Don't take one away from me, man.
I'm not going to take one away.
Valuable.
They each matter, and this introduction just got even better because I messed up, and everyone loves a good mess up. But anyway,
you've done 5 before, and I've corrected.
I keep saying 5.
I wanted to wait till it was like live to correct you.
Can you go through the 6 for me? Like why I keep saying 5?
Like
no, I want to know. Go through the 6.
You want me to
quick.
give you stats and stuff too?
No, I just want to see. Where did you play?
You know what well, I started my rookie year in Green Bay, then played several years for the Browns, and then finished kind of a jacked up season with Philly and Seattle. So given that we're doing this together, I would imagine there's a lot of Philly fans that will chime in to see what Nick Foles thinks about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Can I sort of like
we were teammates?
Can I sort of ingratiate myself to Philly fans real quick?
Just so we know, we have 2 Philadelphia Eagles right here.
We do.
Yeah,
so former Eagles. He might be a little more. I might be notorious now that I think about it. You're famous. I might be notorious. So at the end of the 2012 season, and Nick is married to my sister. The end of the 2012 season, you guys were dating, and I had been released towards the end of the season by the Seattle Seahawks. It was a rough year. Had some back issues. Things didn't play out like I thought they would in Seattle, so I was released. And I get a phone call. There's like 2 weeks left in the season. I get a phone call from Howie Roseman. He had already spoken to my agent, and he said, hey, we'd love to bring you out for the rest of the season. And my college quarterback, Trent Edwards, was there, as was Nick Foles. This was Nick's rookie year. Remember 2012? He's a rookie. He's starting by this time. Like, the season had already kind of slipped away from you guys. It was Andy Reid's last year in Philly, right? Season had already started to slip away. And I thought, I'm not in great shape physically. My back's a mess. I'm going to probably need surgery at some point, but I'm going to give it a go. I'd love to be able to play with Nick. My sister's out there with him. This would be really cool. Tell our kids one day, right? Boy, did that backfire. Boy, did that backfire.
So tell them why.
So I arrive on a Monday, and that week is the second to last game of the season. We're playing the Washington Redskins. Yep. Yes, at the time they were the Redskins. They were yet to the Commanders. So at the time we're playing the Redskins, and I arrive on a Monday, and because I have so little time to prepare, they put in like 8 plays for me. This was Marty Morningweg.
They saw you. So I remember this vividly because knowing that I was going to eventually ask your sister to marry me because it was just going to happen.
It was a thing.
It was a real thing. I remember the first walkthrough. And I remember Marty, and anyone who knows Marty, like he's always spitting his dip.
This is Andy's OC.
Andy's OC, Marty Morningwig. And Evan runs like a 10-yard out route. And it's in walkthrough. And I just tossed it out there to him, and he just snags it like it's nothing, like his hands, boom, turns up the field, jogs by the huddle, and Marty, you could just see, oh, shoot, look at this guy. All right, let's build this thing. Spits in his cup. Remember when he was doing installs? He'd gag on his spit. Like, hey, look at this shot.
Yeah, Marty loved him some Marty.
He did, hey, you know what? You got to love yourself a little bit to be confident in the NFL, but I just want to give a little context, but I'll let you continue.
So Marty's the OC, and Marty installed maybe a half dozen to like 8 plays for me because there's no way I could learn the entire offense. I knew most of your terminology because I was coming from Pat Shurmur's offense in Philly. Pat's an Andy Reid disciple.
Love shallow cross.
They're all kind of the Mike Holmgren tree, right? And they put in like 8 plays for me. So now fast forward to the game, and it's a close game. And I'm going to go straight to the point that I think Eagles fans remember the most because other parts of the game they won't remember. This is Andy Reid's, and if I had forgotten in the moment this was Andy's last game, because no one really knew. Everyone figured it was Andy's last year in Philly. It was going in that direction.
Yeah, it was a rough year.
The game's at Lincoln Financial Field, and playing the Redskins, we're driving. On the last drive, we're down 6. So we need a touchdown, an extra point, and we're going to win the game. And we're driving, we're moving, and you could feel the energy in the stadium. I had never even been in the Link. As I had never been there as a visiting team, never been there. We're driving. We get inside the 5-yard line, and I hear my personnel group called out. And I know what the play is. I've only got 8 plays, and we're inside the 5, so of course I know what the play is. And I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Like, I'm going to have a chance to win this game for us. And Nick's at quarterback. How cool is this?
I got to throw it to my brother-in-law. It's the only way I can marry his sister.
And to be clear, I was number one option on the play.
You were.
Right?
You were.
So what happened, I was a tight end. I split out as the number one receiver on the right. And the idea was we were going to get man-to-man coverage. But even if we didn't, I had a corner on me. We're still going to run the play.
Yeah.
But if it were man-to-man, probably a linebacker or safety is going to be out on
lesser defender.
Yeah, lesser
for all
defender.
you linebackers and safeties out there.
And I'm going to run a quick, just take one step up the field and run a slant across that defender's face. And the objective was, I'm 6'6", was just to have you put it on me quick and me basically fall into the end zone.
Yep.
Because it was impossible to stop if it was thrown the right way, or so we thought. So I get out there, we have the coverage we want. And, it had been a rough year for me, right? I was not in the right place mentally. And I remember thinking, here it is. We got the coverage we want. This is it. I run the play, ball snapped, I run the route, I turn, I look for the ball, perfect ball, kind of on my back shoulder, perfect, right? I turn, look for it, it's coming right here. Nick throws it 100 miles an hour like he's supposed to, perfect throw, puts it right here. I take my eye off it at the last second, look up the field to kind of fall into the end zone, and it bounces off my shoulder pad up in the air, hits the ground, game's over. We lose the game. And in that moment, it was almost fitting for me because it was that's how terrible the year was. Maybe a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was not right up here at the time. And here we go. Game's over. I lost. But that wasn't the end of it. The hardest part, and I don't even know Andy Reid, right? I knew him from afar. He's an iconic coach for the Eagles for so many years. Probably the most difficult part of it was as I was walking off the field and so much shame and despair, I hear the fans going crazy and cheering. And I look up, what's going on here? What, did I miss something? Did something happen on the field? 10 feet behind me as I walk out through the tunnel is Andy Reid.
Yeah.
He's walking off the field too, and he's waving to the fans. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I just dropped the ball and lost the game for the Eagles. And Andy Reid, I said, most likely Andy Reid's last game at Lincoln Financial Field. So my claim to fame to this day. And now Eagles fans are that's the guy. Where is he? That's the guy. I'm the guy. And to this day, I can laugh about it now. Trust me, it took me a while to be able to move.
We laugh about it often. Andy's doing just fine. He's doing pretty good.
The best part about it is here we are. I've got 3 daughters. Nick's got 3 kids. They're my nieces and nephews, and my daughters are his nieces. It's an amazing story to tell. And at the time, we were too young and dumb to understand perspective and all that, and how really it's life's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. But to your Eagles fans who have come on here to listen to what Nick thinks about the Super Bowl, we're going to get into that. That's really important. That's who I am, right? I just want people to know that. I'm that guy, 86, that dropped the ball in the one-step slant.
You know what, though? Looking back at it, it's so cool that we got to be teammates for that time. And, I think another thing, too, is at the start of the next offseason, you were still with the Eagles. So, you and I got to go out to Best Buy and buy a game system and play a little Call of Duty, and
we bonded.
We bonded.
That was before you married my sister.
That was before I think I even asked, because I called you to eventually ask your permission to marry your sister.
Permission is right. It was permission.
It is. Hey, I have a lot of respect for you and Ryan, and you guys know that. So I know how much my wife loves her big brother. So and that's why we go through life. That's why it's cool to we get to break down a game that's the Super Bowl. That's gonna be a lot of fun, a lot of hot takes. Andy Reid is the coach for the Kansas City Chiefs, and we are both former Eagles. Fortunately, they have the Super Bowl 52 victory. Ironically, on a slant route that I threw to Ertz, I threw that one a lot softer. I learned my lesson throwing it hard.
Oh, stop.
No, so for you quarterbacks out there.
Nothing to do with that. It was a different play.
The quarterback is always at fault to a certain extent. And what I learned is – No, I learned this. So
I won't stand for this.
So when you run a slant route,
this isn't even self-deprecation.
No, this is me. No, this is what I learned throughout my career, because one of my skill sets was I could change velocities really well and be very accurate. Okay. And you know that from me throwing.
And you were very accurate on that play.
I was, but I was a young player where everyone always told you to throw really hard and really fast and use the arm strength. So I learned in the off seasons, I started running routes myself to prepare for the Philly special after my rookie year. You know what I'm saying? I want to get those hands right. It's really hard to catch a slant route when you're going back at a quarterback and he guns at you. That's if y'all are in school, physics or whatever, that's a lot of velocity coming head to head.
I love what you're doing right now.
You see what I'm doing?
Because I'm moving towards the ball. And
it amplifies the speed. Now, if it's an out route, you better gun that thing.
You feel better. Why didn't you? Why you wait like 13 years to
because
tell me
I needed to make sure we were on camera before I did this. I needed to count for something. I needed you to deal with the emotions of it first.
There's been some dark times in my life over the last 12 years, and you're just now telling me this
hey,
is partially
but
your
now
fault?
it's on camera, and we can be happy about it, and it's so good. But like if we go back to the Ertz clip, like watch how I throw that ball. It's like a lollipop on a slant route, and I learned my lesson. So all you Eagles fans out there, he's also the reason you won the Super Bowl, because if I threw that ball super fast, it might not have been completed.
Do I get a ring?
You can have you know this.
You know what, Ertz? I
you
know
can have
Ertz.
this ring. Here you go. You want this one?
Yeah,
you want this?
This is I knew I had a part in that.
And just so y'all know, that's just that's not the real thing.
I know Ertz because Ertz is a Stanford guy.
Yes.
And I got to know him. He was after me at Stanford, but I'll make sure Zach understands that like it was my downfall that led to his rise.
You know what? But Stanford guy, you were looking out for each other. And
love Ertz. Great player. I'm glad it worked for him.
Yeah.
Let me ask this though, since we're obviously this is about the Super Bowl and the Eagles being back in the Super Bowl again. That's an awesome jacket, by the way.
Yeah.
Every Eagles fan watched the game last weekend. Championship Sunday, AFC Championship, Chiefs beat the Bills at home. But before that, the Eagles played the Washington Commanders and got a huge win at home. And I knew you were going to be at the game, right? You were going to be there as the honorary captain, which was amazing. I was there with Nick earlier in the season when he was the honorary captain. They did kind of a little retirement thing for you, which was amazing in September before they lost to the Falcons. Tough loss. But I knew you were going back this weekend. Everybody saw you on television up in Lurie's box enjoying the game. But one thing I didn't expect, I don't even know if you knew this, is that if they won the game, that freaking jacket on stage, live on Fox, nationally, presenting Jeffrey Lurie with the NFC Championship trophy, what an incredible experience that must have been. Tell us what that was like, standing up there with your team, the franchise's only Super Bowl MVP, giving Jeffrey Lurie the trophy.
You know what? When I got there, they had mentioned like, hey, when we win, you want to be confident. We're gonna have you a part of the trophy ceremony. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like, but then I'm like, man, this must be something big. And they're like, you're gonna have lines. So people don't know this. This is a fun little insight from the game. So I get lines like, I start preparing when it's early in the game because I'm like, the Eagles are gonna win this game.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not even counting. I told Tori, my wife, when we're sitting there, I'm like, I got to know these lines. And so I'm going through them. I'm practicing with her. I'm like butchering them at the beginning because I want it to be perfect,
Yeah.
And, and the NFL presents, boom, 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 the George Halas Trophy. I added in the part about, my feelings about Mr. Lurie. Like that was not a part of what the league gave me. I wanted to share my love for Mr. Lurie, who I think is the best owner in sports.
Yeah.
I got to play for him for, what did I play there, 5 years? So I got to talk about him. I got to present him the trophy. I got to give Big Dom a hug, who's like world renowned though. I think he's probably about to start acting.
Dom's more famous in Philly than you are.
He is. Yeah. So when I go there,
are they putting a statue of Dom out front, or
they're going to put a statue of Dom that's going to be in front of the Philly Special statue that we're not even going to see the Philly Special statue. That's how special Dom is.
A little wider than yours, but maybe.
You know what? He looked in great shape though. Like, you know what? He's been working out. I thought he looked the most fit he's looked.
Yeah.
Everything about him. There's just a glow. Like he's getting ready for Hollywood. He's going to take over what The Rock's been doing.
Celebrity.
Like he's going to be big time. So, but truly a great honor. I'm grateful for decking me out and all the amazing swag. I did have my dad's season hat on previously, but we are not a league sponsor, so I had to take my Philly dad hat off. But I was wearing it at the game. But this is truly a great honor to give this trophy that I was once on stage getting it with him.
Yeah.
As a veteran player to an amazing owner, amazing friend, and then now they're getting ready for the Super Bowl week, and they're going against a really tough team that's going against for a three-peat in the Kansas City Chiefs.
Wait, so you were up in the box with Jeff Lurie and his family and everyone
up
a guest
there
with him, right?
Yep.
Right at the 50, like perfect.
It was an amazing box. Right. Fans right below us, everyone cheering. Tori and I can look down.
Yeah.
Everyone has their jerseys on. A lot of Foles jerseys. It was a lot of fun.
What's it like in the game? What's it like in an owner's box before a game?
You know what?
Nervous?
It's so we went for my retirement. We had a box with family and friends.
Right.
Everyone's having a great time watching the Eagles, cheering, whatever. Yeah. This is very different.
Totally.
Everyone is on edge of their seat. Everyone's living and dying like every Eagles fan every single play, but honestly probably even more intense. Bradley Cooper sitting right with his daughter right next to Mr. Lurie and Tina, Mr. Lurie's wife. And everyone's just intense. And it's
amazing. The amazing thing about that is the Eagles were 6 to 6.5 point favorites by the time the game kicked off.
Yeah.
Which is like minus 225, minus 230, somewhere in that range. If you bet on games, you know what that means. That's a moderate favorite, not a heavy favorite. Like a 9.5 would be heavy, like the Lions when they lost to the Commanders. So like if I saw Mr. Lurie nervous before the game. I'd be like, you realize I have them -6, so I think they're going to win. Not only by they're not just going to win, they're going to win by 6 and like 7 or more.
Yeah.
All you have to worry about if you're the owner is money line. That's all you care about, which means like they just win the game. So to hear that these guys are this tight and nervous before the game, I'm sitting there like, oh, they're going to win. I need them to win by 7 or more. That's what I'm concerned about.
Because
right?
you know this world. You know this world, and we're going to get into that too on this. That's what's going to be so fun is because you're really good at that. Smart. I mean, I've learned a lot. I'm still learning with the betting. The betting's becoming big. Obviously,
gamblers aren't smart. If they were smart, they just wouldn't gamble.
True.
Yeah.
I'm trying to just. Yeah, I guess you're not smart then.
Yeah,
but
no, definitely not smart.
But like the league is now working with all the different ways to gamble and everything. It's become a big item. But I will say this: the fact that it was that intense there with that ownership shows how much they care.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I'm sure there's other owners that are up there flaunting their stuff, talking to different owners, talking to
like
sponsors.
give me an example of which owner you think does that.
No, yeah, I'm not going to do that because I'm just talking about Mr. Lurie. Mr. Lurie loves the Eagles. He loves Philadelphia.
Yeah.
He is midnight green through and through. The thing I love about him is he comes out to most practices. He's always at the facility. But before every game, he goes around the locker room and shakes everyone's hand, and then he's in their post game. That's not normal.
That's not normal.
That's not normal.
That is
So
absolutely not normal.
And just so you know, like that's why I love him because he cares a lot about the team. He cares a lot about the city. I know he's got the Eagles Autism Foundation that's trying to just make waves and impact the community. So he's always trying to do things the right way, and I really appreciate that about him.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The other thing that crossed my mind on Championship Sunday as it relates to this game, and this I think relates to the matchup too. Let's set the Eagles aside for a second and focus on their opponent, the Chiefs. I don't know about you, but over the course of Sunday, I got a lot of text messages from friends that know that I follow this stuff closely and watch the games closely. And most of these guys were just fans, and they're tired of the Chiefs. I think there's a sentiment out there of like, and I know the Eagles have been there now, a few times in the last 7 or 8 years. I get it. But Chiefs are now going for a three-peat, which is historic. No one's ever done this before. And I got one friend specifically that said, I'm just tired of watching them. I said, look, I understand Josh Allen is awesome, and he's a ton of fun to watch. And I would have really appreciated the chance to watch Josh Allen in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. Would have been really cool. But I am not going to sit here and complain about what I feel is the very obviously the best player in the world right now in Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And getting a chance to watch him on this stage. Look at it this way. When you made your run for the Eagles, the 17 season, the 18 Super Bowl, right? That day on Championship Sunday, the Eagles destroyed the Minnesota Vikings, right? Separately in the AFC Championship, remember that game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New England Patriots? Would you rather have beaten Blake Bortles in the Super Bowl, or would you rather have faced Tom Brady in the championship, right?
Yeah.
The best players in the world belong in the Super Bowl, right? And I will never, ever, ever complain about getting a chance to watch greatness on this stage. Now, Josh Allen, great player. But the idea that we could get tired of watching the Chiefs play at this level, and I know there's other things that go along with that. People complain about the officiating and whatnot. I understand that. That idea is crazy to me, that you could ever get tired of watching greatness at this level. Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. And by the way, I don't even pay attention to, if you get tired of watching Taylor Swift and don't care. I'm talking about football.
Yeah.
How could you ever get tired of watching Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, Andy Reid, and all these guys compete on a stage like this? Do you feel the same way, or do you feel differently?
No, I feel the same way just because we've been there and done it, and we know how hard it is. I mean, what they are doing, they're making it look easy but hard at the same way, right? Like we were running the numbers, and I think their average margin of victory was around a touchdown, but most of their games were close. And throughout the whole course of the season, they're saying Patrick Mahomes is not playing up to his level, and I don't think it was his best statistic year ever, but he wins, and he finds a way to win, and he's unbelievable. Like you said, one of the best players in the world, if not the best player, because of what he's doing with winning. But for a team to do that and have a chance at a three-peat and how they're doing, I mean, I think even Josh Allen after the game says, like, well, we have to beat the best.
Right.
And the Chiefs are the best. They have that crowned. They're an amazing team. I got to play for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2016. That's where I found the love of the game again. I have all the respect in the world for the Kansas City Chiefs and Andy Reid, and I can tell you firsthand, the reason they are so good is not just Pat Mahomes, not Travis Kelce, not Taylor Swift. I feel like she's a part of the team now.
She's on the team.
She's on the team. And NFL loves that. But it's all those coaches in that facility. A lot of them stay there. And if they do go get jobs like head coaching jobs, then they eventually come back because they want to win. They know Andy Reid develops this culture that is a winning culture. Why is that? Well, I'm a firm believer that if you're a leader, like Andy Reid's a leader, you yourself are called upon to be the head coach. You have to have the vision. You have to instill the vision. You have to make the vision believed.
Mm-hmm.
And he does that every single day. If you watch him in his press conference, he's always steady. If a team has a bad game, he shoulders the blame. He moves on. He holds you accountable in practice, and he makes you a better man. Playing for Andy made me a better man. So all that encompasses the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, like when we went against it, you alluded to it, as great as the Jacksonville Jaguars were that year and how great Blake Bortles played and what he was doing,
can make an argument that they should have won that game.
Oh, they were. We thought they were. Everyone thought they were going to win that game.
Yeah.
I remember watching like, wow, we're going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
But the Patriots were much like the Kansas City Chiefs. There's comparisons to them.
Right.
They are both hated by people that are not the fans. There's not this admiration anymore. Mm-hmm. But I think when you earn that, when people start hating you, man, you are doing something right. You are finding ways to win. And at the same time, like, there's a lot of kids out there that love the Chiefs. They love Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Great examples for them growing up. But, man, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, there's no one else you'd rather play. Mm-hmm. The Bills are close. The Bills are very, very close. I mean, they've shown that for years. And when they do finally get there, because I believe they will at some point.
They're going to have to get home field if they're going to get there.
They will, because they'll have that. It's hard to go win in Arrowhead. Arrowhead's a huge advantage. Just like playing in the Link is a huge advantage. It'll be even sweeter because you don't just want to be it's not a gift to play in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. You earn that. That's why not many players get that chance. Not many players get a chance to play in the playoffs, much less a Super Bowl, and then win a Super Bowl. So,
I never played in the playoff game.
And the playoffs are very different. So what the Chiefs have done historically is unbelievable, and it's a testament to everyone in that organization. It's a testament to their fans. And we have two of the best franchises in the world right now going head-to-head in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. I mean, you can't ask for a better game.
Can't. And again, to be very clear, like Josh Allen getting a chance to play in this game over the Chiefs, Josh Allen and the Bills, I should say, I would have been excited about that too. But I will never complain about getting a chance to watch greatness like Patrick Mahomes. And even if there's something about him you don't like you feel like he gets calls or he flops at the end of plays.
Yeah, what do you have to say about that? What do you have to say about it? Let's get into that.
But the one thing I'll add, because you played the position for so long, is if you get beyond the tangible things that quarterbacks do well, like throwing with anticipation, throwing with touch, right? Seeing all the things happen in front of you, like Patrick Mahomes clearly is superior at than pretty much every quarterback out there. The thing that fascinates me with him are the randomly the little things that pop up over the course of a game. Let me give you an example. This seems like it's no big deal, but if you watch it and you see how this sort of integrates itself into his entire game, it blows me away. The comfort level that he plays the position with. So this has actually happened several times this year, but I noticed it most recently. Who they play Houston before Buffalo? So in the divisional game against Houston, he got out of the pocket and was over towards the sideline scrambling. He was 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. 5 yards, okay, approximately. And Patrick Mahomes knew he was 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. The defense didn't really pay attention because they're so frantically trying to stop him. Is he going to run? Is he going to throw? He's 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, pump faking the ball down the field, right? And the average fan might say, like, the hell's he doing? He can't throw the ball. He knows that. He's beyond the line of scrimmage. He can't throw the ball forward. He can lateral it, but he's not going to. It's not what he was faking. He was faking throwing it down the field to the end zone. And what was happening? Defenders were falling for it.
Because defenders have no idea.
They have no idea.
I mean, you know who's great at that? And I love him. I love how he plays the game. Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
I mean, there's times where he'd be looking down the field, like just shuffling 10 yards down the field. And then I don't even know if he knew where he was, but he used to do that all the time.
Mahomes is and again, we're not going to sit here and throw up plays and break them down because that's not why we're here today. But Mahomes is a fantastic illustration of mastery of a position to the point where mid-play he's allowing himself to ad-lib and do things that most quarterbacks, no disrespect, I mean, you could probably attest to this, doesn't even cross their mind.
No.
He's pump faking 5 yards down the field. You might be, whatever, Evan. No, that play turned into a 15-yard gain because the defender jumped. And on film, I guarantee you on film the next day, the defensive coordinator's like, why are you jumping? He can't throw the ball 5 yards down. He's 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Coach, I've never seen a quarterback do that before.
Well, he's created such a fear in any defense. And I think what the Chiefs have done, too, and why they win games at the end, one, they're really well coached. They understand the game of football, and that matters at the end of the game. Two, they never feel like they're going to lose because they have this confidence about them. It's like, we're going to find a way to win. And there's a comfort level, like you said, that he plays with where he's not thinking those things. Yeah. He's reacting.
Totally.
Because he's played the ball. He's had great coaching. He has natural talent.
Right.
But it's just everything is hidden at the right time.
You know what it is? Think of a musician. a musician, and I'm not a musician, to be very clear, far from it. Never even learned how to play a musical instrument.
But you do like some
I've
good,
heard
good
people
music.
talk- yeah,
you like a little
and I've
rap
also
and stuff?
watch like whether someone on the piano
Yeah.
and they're singing, the subconscious is taking care of all this stuff.
It's like the flow state,
Right?
man.
They're singing. Really, the conscious part is on like the fact that they're singing and trying to put everything into it. Their hands are just going.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm blown away by it. Right? As an athlete, you see it, you're like, anyone, I don't care if it's sports or whatever, the mastery of anything is just really cool to watch. And so to see a musician sit there and sing like a John Legend, and then you watch his hands on the piano, this is all subconscious. He's even reading music as he's going, but this is like taken over. And he can actually focus on something else. That is Patrick Mahomes playing the quarterback position.
Yeah.
An insane level of mastery at the subconscious level. And really any great quarterback of all time.
Tom Brady was the same
Right.
way.
And it takes, this is a testament to Andy Reid, because Andy's had him since he was drafted. It takes a certain level of comfort and development in a system. That's why Aaron Rodgers was so good for so long, right? Had Aaron been drafted by the Cleveland Browns, we're probably not had all this turnover.
Yeah.
Patrick has had stability,
Yep.
fantastic coaching, and he's
Alex-
allowed the subconscious to
Well,
take
Andy got
over,
to be with Alex Smith for a year.
Right. And by the way, you might say, well, of course, because Patrick's so good. That's no. Like, it's symbiotic, right? The stability of an organization allowed Patrick and all that talent to flourish. And at some point, it leveled the playing field where they worked off each other. But for a while, Patrick benefited from the stability first.
Yeah.
And then he became what he is today, which is true greatness, right?
No doubt.
The coaching side of this, I think, is fascinating for obvious reasons with Andy Reid. But I think Nick Sirianni has a lot to prove, right? So this is Nick Sirianni's second Super Bowl in 4 years, right? He's been with the team for this is his fourth season. Regular season, he's 48-20, and in the playoffs, he's 5-3. Yet, and I'm not going to say it's going on now, but we'd be remiss if we don't at least acknowledge the fact that earlier in the season, there were still people, maybe not Philly people, maybe there were Philly people, but I don't live in Philly, so I don't feel it as much as you do, but there were still people that looked and said, that's a hell of a roster the Eagles have built, especially with the addition of Saquon Barkley. Like, I thought he and Josh Jacobs were the best offseason additions of the NFL offseason.
Yep.
Probably Saquon takes the cake on that for
No
obvious
doubt.
reasons. There were still people that like, is that guy, meaning Nick Sirianni, is that guy still the right guy to run that when he was yelling at fans
Yep.
earlier in the season, when he was popping off? He's a I don't
He's
know.
very passionate.
You know him, so that's my question.
Yeah.
Are the questions still out there, A? And B, does he need to win this game to answer those questions?
You know, I think you definitely have to win the game to answer the questions. It
Right.
doesn't matter how great of a coach
Right.
you are and what your resume. Even Andy Reid, like he had a Hall of Fame
Because
career.
the last team they played was the Chiefs. So this is like attempt 2 at it, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. So, but before Andy had won a Super Bowl, it was still the same question, right?
Yeah.
Can he get it done
Yeah.
on the big stage? So, any coach knows, like Nick Sirianni knows that this is an amazing experience. But the thing I love about Nick is this: he's passionate, he's
Yep.
fiery. The reason he got back,
I can feel that from him, by the way.
But we all know that we love coaches that are authentic and genuine to themselves. We don't like coaches that get up there and act like a persona, but we know that's not really who they are. They try to act a certain way, like I'm a head coach in the NFL, I'm going to be this way. He lets his personality show, and he lets it off. And I think the team, before the season or during the season, like we need you to get back to that.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't that way last year.
Okay.
So it caused a struggle because he was being something like he was taming himself down. They wanted that fiery side because the guys what matters is the guys in the locker room. There's always going to be talking heads outside the locker room. Philly loves to smack talking coach.
But teams and locker rooms still take on, and I hate this. This is a cliche, but it's so many ways it's true, because I think you saw it with the Chargers this year and Jim Harbaugh. They still take on, sort of, for lack of a better way to put it, the personality of a head coach.
For sure.
Meaning, if Nick is going to be emotional and fiery on the sidelines and popping off at fans, that sort of infiltrates the locker room, right? So has that happened in a good way, is what you're saying now?
What I'm saying is it doesn't matter the personality. It matters the authenticity of the personality.
interesting. Okay.
So let's
So
just, there's no right personality. So whenever you're doing
Just
something.
be authentic.
It's as a quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were tight end,
Yeah.
6 years in the NFL.
Yeah, 6, not 5. Every year matters.
When I step in
Credited season.
like say like all of a sudden, like I'm
Benefits.
in the locker room and you
401k.
see me come in, like say the day starts at like 8 and I walk in at 7:59 and then the day ends at 5:30. I leave at 5:31.
Okay.
Right. And I'm like not doing the extra work. I'm just sort of going through the motion. And then I step in a huddle with you and I'm like, all right, guys, now it's time to go. Let's go. And then I mess up a simple play because I have not been doing any extra work. Like
Sure.
the minimal work as a quarterback there should always be several hours extra of studying the playbook and the game film so you're prepared to do your base work.
Okay.
So I'm not being authentic when I step in the huddle with you. I'm trying to change into this gear of being a quarterback that I think I should be, but I haven't done the work and I haven't proved it.
As your teammates, we can all read that.
You read that and then you're like, oh, dang. Like it changes the persona and the drive in the huddle. So for me as a quarterback, I always wanted to be authentic in the locker room. So when I got to know guys, in the locker room, at lunch, at dinner, in the sauna, I always wanted to go on. That personality they saw in the locker room was the same guy that stepped in the huddle. Mm-hmm. So they were able to thrive on that because they knew they could trust it. Mm-hmm. They knew they could believe in it. Same thing as a head coach. I had a different personality than Carson Wentz. I have a different personality than Alex Smith, but I was still able to step in a huddle and make things happen because of my teammates, and they trusted me and they were able to buy in and go. Same thing as a head coach. So Andy Reid's great because he's authentic and genuine to himself. I love Nick Sirianni. I love his fire. I've gotten to know him a little bit through the last couple years. I've never played for him, but everyone that has loves him. They love the fire because that's who he is.
Yep.
And I think the team has taken that persona because that is his authentic self, and the team has now become their own personality and their own heartbeat.
I think the thing we have to add too is it's evolved along the way, because is this Kellen Moore's first year calling plays?
This is Kellen's first year.
So Kellen's first year
here in Philadelphia.
In Philly, obviously. And then obviously you add a generational talent, which we'll get into momentarily, in Saquon Barkley. As a head coach, that's going to help you. You just added a rusher that's got like 2,500 yards on the ground. That's going to help the cause, right? So those things, let's account for that for a second. We've mentioned it. Set them aside. So basically what you're telling me is because of Nick's authenticity and how he's grown as a coach, that this game doesn't make – I mean, obviously winning a Super Bowl solidifies it, but this game doesn't make or break Nick Sirianni as the leader of the Eagles moving forward.
I think what he's done in his 4 years there is extremely special.
48-20 in the regular season.
Yeah.
5-3 in the playoffs.
I mean,
but the questions are still there. That's why I ask you.
And I do love this about Philadelphia, and I love this about Mr. Lurie. There is no complacency. With other franchises, they're like, we almost made the playoffs. Great job. Mr. Lurie doesn't settle for that, and the Philadelphia Eagles fan base does not settle for that, and the organization, that is never a thought. So, like, going into the offseason, it's never like, hey, let's just get over 500. I've been on teams where it's like, if we get over 500, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, no, their goal every single year is to bring another Super Bowl to Philadelphia and have that celebration on Broad Street. So there's an intensity about it. And I think what Nick's doing is, you're always proving yourself. If Nick wins this Super Bowl, Doug Peterson wins a Super Bowl, he's out of a job in Philly a few years later because it started drifting downward. There's always going to be that accountability. So, yes, this will solidify him in, the best coaches ever, best season ever from, Philadelphia Eagles organization based on win-loss record, what they've done. But he'll still have to prove it year after year. And I think that's sports in general. Like, you've never arrived. Andy Reid has never stopped proving himself. Like, but there's something inside you that wants to do that. When you're at that level, you want to bring it every day. And I believe Nick Sirianni has it. But you alluded to it too with like Kellen Moore and, they have Jeff Stout. And they have all these awesome coaches. Like, you have to have a great staff. So he's leading the staff. I have to believe, and once again, I am not a part of the Philadelphia Eagles organization. I'm not in there. I don't know what's going on. I have to believe that Nick Sirianni gives all his position coaches a lot of trust, and he trusts them to do their job, because if you're micromanaging everyone, it's hard to do your job. So he's let Kellen Moore become Moore. He's let Jeff Stoutland be Jeff Stoutland. And it allows the coaches to be the best version of themselves. And in that NovaCare facility where they all practice, they're getting the best version of everyone. And then you alluded to, hey, man, we had Saquon Barkley. And I will tell you this, because I was just at the NFC Championship game. Opening play from scrimmage for the Eagles, that was not like an easy touchdown run. Like, he made it look so easy, but if you really watch it, he broke like 4 or 5 tackles, running around the edge. The squat's like 1,000 pounds, spin move, body control, run. He makes it look easy. And when you make it look easy, that means you're one of the greatest of all time. So I'm so happy for Saquon, because I know, once again, I don't like the Giants. NFC East, I don't like the Giants. I don't like the Cowboys. I don't like the Commanders. It was always fun with those rivalries. Fan base has a lot of fun. But I'm just so happy that Saquon could finally find his home with the Philadelphia Eagles and do what he's always been able to do that people doubted him to do.
It's rare going into a matchup like Commanders and Eagles, where a matchup point is, hey, Commanders run defense specifically over the course of the year wasn't great.
Yeah.
So how's it going to fare against Saquon Barkley? And in the opening play to have that happen, it's rare for it to like be like right there, the immediacy of that moment. It's rare for that to happen so quickly, right? Okay, so on the heels of the Nick Sirianni thing that I asked, so how do they get it done is the question. And the first thing I think we have to first address, because I think every NFL fan wonders this right now, is is there an element of anybody that plays against the Chiefs? And I realize this game's not at Arrowhead, right? This game is at a neutral site like every Super Bowl, so they're not going to be playing this game at the Chiefs' kingdom. Do the Chiefs get calls? Is that a stupid question?
You know what?
Should I even ask the question that way? I mean, are they getting calls?
My hope is this, and this is how I love the game. I hope that they let them play.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hope both teams get away with a little bit of holding, a little bit of pushing. I mean, when there's everything is called in a game, it's brutal.
Well, let me go backwards. Hold on. So, like Josh Allen on 3rd and 4th down, sneaking the ball.
That was a first down.
Now, again, there's got to be irrefutable video evidence.
I thought there's pretty good
You
evidence.
can say two things. You can say, how do you make that call in the field in the first place? And then secondly,
Well, the line judge,
the guy up top is the one should have been
but-
able to see it. But who knows? I don't know what his vantage point was if he was being blocked. I mean, it's hard to say, right? These guys are human.
Yeah, true.
And then the one where there was simultaneous possession, they fell to the ground. The ball hit the ground, but it didn't move.
Yeah.
The ball was secured by both guys, and then they rolled over, and tie goes to the offensive player. We all
Yeah.
know that. I didn't have as much of a problem with that one.
No doubt.
But as it relates to maybe late hits on Patrick Mahomes, can we at least acknowledge, because we're talking about human beings that ref games,
Yeah.
and there's a reason why leagues keep human error in place. Otherwise, like in baseball, we'd see balls and strikes go to machine learning, right? And we never get it wrong. It's very easy to do that. You see on television, you're like, that was a strike. Why don't they just work off what – because human error is a good thing in sports,
Yeah.
right? And by the way, if we think for 1 second the league doesn't love the fact that we're all pissed off about one team getting a call over another, it's provocative. It adds more interest. It adds more people that
There's
are angry.
more articles.
It's good
There's
for
more
the
talking
league.
heads.
100%. I'm not uncovering anything that people don't already know. But let me put it this way. If you're going into this game as Jalen Hurts, let's say you're the quarterback of the Eagles, and you're playing this team, does it cross your mind at all? Because I think fans wonder, hey, Nick, do you play differently because you think you're not going to get calls? That's kind of a ridiculous way to put it, but I think people really wonder that.
Yeah, and I would say this: you don't worry about it. Yeah. Like when we went against Tom Brady, like if anyone's going to get calls, it's going to be Tom Brady, not me. So like,
great point.
You don't worry about that.
Yeah.
So I think the way that I approached the game when I played it at the highest level with the best teams was, if it was out of my control, I didn't worry about it. I just wanted to worry about my sphere of influence and what I had to do to execute. And if the ref made a call that we disagreed with, like I could be pissed off at him, but the clock's still going and we still have to rep a play, and that's going to mess me up. So. Hey, he made a call that I disagree with. That's fine. He's a human. He does his job. He's out there. He's doing the best he can. I have to keep playing. So, and I think, Jalen Hurts, he's going to go out there and he's just got to focus on his job and what he has to do.
And by the way, I think you earn the right to get calls. I'm a big believer in that because we're talking about human beings that ref the games. I can't remember what quarter it was in, but Saquon was on the sideline, took a hit from a Commander's secondary player, and a personal foul was called for a late hit. Saquon's foot had maybe not even touched the white or barely touched the white by the time he took the hit. I thought that was a ridiculous call, but guess what? Saquon gets it because he's Saquon Barkley.
I thought it was a great call.
Well, again, I get it.
I'm not biased, though.
Saquon gets it because he's Saquon Barkley, as does Pat Mahomes. That's a reality of sports. It's just the way it is, right? Now, you might say, well, that's not true. I'll give you an example of great players that don't get it. Fine. There's nuance to the conversation. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. I don't think it's something as an opponent you focus on. But I think it makes great chatter for fans, and that's why the league loves it so much.
Well, and we all know, too, like there's officiating crews, right? So, like when we would go into games, if it was like a Friday meeting, like we were always showed who were the officials, what was their background, what was their other jobs, fun stuff like that. And then it's like, all right, what were they? Hey, this officiating crew is the number one caller of pass interference. This officiating crew calls the most holding. So that way they told the players.
This is big. I want to emphasize this. Good coaches in team meetings leading up to a game will actually talk to, and this is a good thing. I'm not trying to say the league's fixed or anything. We'll actually talk to the team about the officials, especially big games, that are officiating that game and the tendencies that they have.
And play into them.
Right?
This
is big.
If it's
right?
if you know the officials call the most defensive pass interferences,
play into it.
You will flop.
Yeah.
That's what great. I can promise you, Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni are both having these conversations.
These
are
the
greatest. Yeah. And then, but on the other turn, there's times where it's like, hey, this crew actually calls the most offensive pass interferences. So make sure you stay clean. But that matters. Like every little detail in the game matters. So going into this with the officiating crew, they're going to go through all the nuances and they're going to play into it. If they call the most roughing the passers, I guarantee you both sides quarterbacks, if they get nudged, they're just going to fall.
Because they know they're prone to calling it.
Yes,
right?
and they might get – that's a huge play. A roughing the passer is a huge penalty against the defense.
Right.
So when you as a quarterback step in there and you get to deliver that for your team, you know it's a big boost to you.
So we've got some amazing player matchups, right? We've talked about some of the greatest of all time that are competing in this game already. We can already call Saquon Barkley that. We can call Pat Mahomes that. We can call Travis Kelce that. These are future Hall of Famers, right? And Jalen Hurts in his own right, I know there's questions about his ability to stay in the pocket and be a true pocket passer, but that this offense works for him. It works, right? What do you identify when you look at this game as, and there's always going to be a number of different facets that contribute to the outcome of the game, but for the heck of it, let's just try to isolate one particular matchup in this game that you think could ultimately determine how this thing goes.
Honestly, I think this comes down to, and I was really impressed with him last week, and I've just been impressed with him as the Eagles starting quarterback. I think it comes down to Jalen Hurts. I know everyone's going to talk about Saquon. They're going to talk about Pat Mahomes. Jalen's sort of getting left out a little bit. I know he's talked about he's had an amazing year. I know passing-wise it hasn't been, but, like, he brings a lot more.
He's a winner.
He's a winner, one.
Yeah.
He's a super freak athlete. He has a ton of rushing touchdowns. When you get the ball inside the 5, it's a guaranteed touchdown between him and Saquon. They're going to find a way. He's a powerful individual. There's clips all over Instagram and social media of him and Saquon both squatting together. I am so impressed with Jalen Hurts. Now, the key to him is how he needs to throw like he did last week.
Yeah.
Or 2 weeks ago when this will be released. But, like, against the Commanders, I thought he was in his element. There was a 4th and 5. He threw a go ball on the left side to A.J. Brown. It was a perfect pass. He just looked in control. He knows that he just has to facilitate that offense. And he also, they did a QB draw, and he makes it look easy. So Saquon's going to do his thing. The Chiefs are scared about Saquon. I guarantee you that. But the thing about this is that makes it Saquon even better is you got Jalen Hurts back there with Saquon. That helps Saquon. Not only is that O-line amazing, and Jeff Stoutland's the best O-line coach in the world. Phenomenal. Yeah. They've always been that way. But Jalen Hurts is going to be the key for the Eagles. He needs to facilitate it. He needs to play loose. He needs to play free. And he's done that on this stage. He had a great Super Bowl the last time. Like, he's playing amazing. He's a winner. He's always been a winner. And I expect him to, I know we're not giving our final insight, but I expect him to find a way to win.
So you don't think it's Taylor Swift as the determining factor?
You know what? I think that, Taylor Swift, there will be a lot of –
That's totally tongue-in-cheek. I don't even care. It doesn't bother me. They show her. It's fun. People get tired of it.
You know what, though? Like, everyone I've talked to and everyone that's been around her just says how awesome she is and how authentic she is and how she's very warm and welcoming. And I think that that's really great. I know, like the Chiefs, people are getting tired of it all.
Yeah.
But I'd say she's been in the limelight a lot. She's one of the top celebrities, if not the top celebrity in the world. And she constantly is being a great example. And she goes to the game. She's a fan. She's having fun. I was Travis's teammate. I'm really happy for him. He's an awesome dude. Obviously, I know Jason a lot more. So, it's really great for the league. And it could bring record-breaking viewership this Super Bowl between them.
So I'm going to take it a step further with regard to a critical matchup in the game as it relates to Jalen Hurts. I agree with you. But I want to play on the dynamic with the Chiefs defense and the Chiefs defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. So Spagnuolo is fantastic. We all know
he's
that.
Amazing.
And granted, personnel plays into your ability to build schemes. So he's got great personnel as well. Like Chris Jones changes games right up front.
He changes your collarbone, too.
Totally does.
I have a plate right here because of Chris Jones. So thanks for bringing up Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Game wreckers, right? It's a cliche we use a lot with guys up front. When you can rush effectively with 4, it changes the game because now your other 7, you can do whatever the hell you want with them, right? And you can get there with 4, it's great. And we saw at the end of at the Bills game when in that moment, I think it was 4th and 5, Spagnuolo dials up pressure. He brings a corner blitz from the boundary. Do you know how many defensive coordinators in the NFL and college are terrified to bring pressure in that moment against Josh Allen because they're like, we might get beat deep, we might, or one of our corners might fall and it turns into a 50-yard touchdown, or we might commit pass interference, whatever. So many DCs won't do that. Now, as fans, we all knew Spagnuolo would draw something up and bring pressure. We felt it.
That's his
But he
MO.
also showed it pre-snap. We were like, whoa, he's really going to do this. Now, he only ended up bringing 5, and the 5th guy was the corner.
Yeah.
He was a creative pressure that kind of threw Josh down. And even though Dalton Kincaid should have caught that ball, which was a tougher catch.
It was very tough. That's a tough catch.
When people were on him, like, I don't know about
that thing's floating, like, you're
guys.
sliding, that's tough.
That's a 50-50 ball, even though it's down here.
Yeah.
He still win. So you could say it didn't even work. Dalton should have caught it. No. The quarterback was running backwards and threw the ball up as a prayer.
Yeah.
So it was the right play call. No question about that.
It was a great defensive call,
right?
great defensive execution.
So because of that dynamic, I think a critical matchup point in this game is the Eagles being able to stay out of 3rd and 5 or longer.
Yeah.
Okay, so every quarterback has strengths and weaknesses. So I'm going to acknowledge here first and foremost, Jalen Hurts is a fantastic player. If there is a weakness, I don't even want to say weakness. If there's a part of Jalen's game that isn't quite what the other parts are, it's standing in the pocket, reading pressure, and going from 1, 2 to 3 or whatever the case may be against pressure. You're not going to have that. But being able to do that effectively from the pocket on a consistent basis. And so because of that and because of the way this offense is built, it's going to be very, very, very important because of what Steve Spagnuolo does defensively to stay out of those 3rd and 5 or longer situations. I'll just say 3rd and 6 or longer, like medium to long. Super important, right? And I'll say this, though. The Eagles know that, and their offense is fantastic at staying out of those situations because they're really good at staying on schedule. So if the Chiefs' defense can get the Eagles out of that, which a lot of it's going to involve stopping Saquon's 4- and 5-yard runs on first down, right? Because 2nd and 5 is amazing.
It's
Take
amazing.
that all day long.
Open
right?
up the playbook.
Huge.
Anything you want.
If you can keep the Eagles from doing that, so there's a little bit of stopping Saquon here, and you keep the Eagles consistently in 3rd and 6 or more, I think the Eagles are in trouble.
Yeah.
Because of those exotic pressures and because of the way they get after the quarterback. And by the way, they can get there with 4 if they want to, too, with Chris Jones. It's dangerous. And so that, to me, watch that closely over the course of the game. Watch the average, and they won't have this stat on Fox. I don't expect them to throw this out, but watch the average 3rd down length at halftime.
Yeah.
Right? I think there'll be high correlation between that to what the score is, and then when the game's over, that to what the final score is. I think that'll ultimately dictate how this thing plays out. There's a lot of things like intertwined in there about what will get that to happen, but generally speaking, I think that is probably the biggest factor as it relates to matchups. And you could say, oh, that's a Steve Spagnuolo, Kellen Moore matchup. Maybe. I think it's really Jalen's ability to read what the defense is doing and go through his progressions and not be running out of the pocket running for his life.
Yeah, and what's so tough about...
By the way, as good as the Eagles' offensive line is,
yes,
Spags will say, that's fine. I'm not trying to beat you just with brute strength. I'm trying to line up and confuse what you guys are doing.
Where's the blitz coming from?
Yeah.
Is it truly pressure, or is it like I'm bringing one, dropping another?
Because the biggest foul, and those are like simulated pressures.
Simulated
right?
pressures.
The biggest fallacy in sports, I think of all sports, falls in football, where anytime a quarterback's running for his life, everyone goes, man, their offensive line sucks.
It's not always the case.
Like, guys, do you know how important the running back, which Saquon's a good pass protector, the tight ends, sometimes a fullback, and the quarterback for getting him in the right protection or the center, all that stuff is sort of outside the scope of just brute pass protecting. Do you know how important that stuff is beyond just, hey, your offensive line's good or bad? You can have a great offensive line that is outcoached. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but you could have a great offensive line that's outcoached and just gets destroyed all game long. It's possible. So that's where the Eagles, I think, have to be very careful.
No, I agree with you. I think, too, to counteract that, if they get to those – obviously, if they're running the ball well – they're going to have to load the box more. Now, if you're at 3rd and 5 longer, you can play shell.
Right.
Like, you don't have to load the box. They're probably not going to run it. Even though the Eagles, they will, because they'll go for it on 4th. They're not afraid.
Shell meaning two safeties.
Two safeties deep.
Basically playing coverage.
Yeah,
right?
so it's like less people in what we call the box, where the O-line is, to stop the run. It's a lighter box, which it's easier to run, but you do it more in coverage situations where you think it's a pass.
Yeah.
Now, where the Eagles, if they can run the ball and they are in those situations, maybe they can get a post-safety coverage where it's just a safety deep. But regardless of that, like you said, Jalen Hurts' decision-makings in those situations on
big.
3rd down will be huge. But I think the deciding factor is just quick decisions. You got Devontae Smith, you got A.J. Brown, you got Dallas Goedert, you got Saquon, but Saquon will probably be in there protecting.
They got the weapons.
But,
No question.
if you can get those guys on a quick slant or a quick hitch or a quick flat, those guys can make plays.
Yeah.
Those guys, I saw it last week, just slant routes. Boom, A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith, boom. Like, those guys, they don't want Devontae Smith catching the ball and running with it. So I think that'll be good. Quick decisions in those situations. Do not hold on to the ball. Let your playmakers make plays. And then it also helps the offensive line. You're not holding on to it, so they're not holding on to for dear life.
Yeah.
And that eliminates holding calls, which then puts 100%. You back further. So
before we get to like our final pick, because the spread -1.5, this thing's almost a toss-up, right? I just want to remind people, and Eagles fans know this, but just fans of football and that watch the game, it is so rare to have a running back. We're talking about Saquon for a second. It's so rare to have a running back that it's like a 5-tool player in baseball, right? They can hit for power, average, and throw and run. That can do all the things that we're talking about, right? Protect in the pass game. So he can be a true 3-down back because he can protect against pressure off the edges or up the middle for that matter. And then secondly, a running back that runs with power and is also a true home run hitter. Most running backs, when they get in the open field, they have that burst at the line, and then they start to fall off.
Yeah.
Why? Because DBs are the biggest freaks on the field.
They're
right?
so
Those
fast.
guys are 4-1 running down the field. They're crazy.
Can't catch.
Saquon is gaining speed as he crosses the goal line on like a 50-yard touchdown run. He's gaining speed. It's insane.
Well, it almost looks like he's jogging at times.
It's
like he gets so far ahead, like there's like linebackers and everyone chasing after him, and he just starts jogging because he knows you're not going to catch me.
I know everyone knows this from the 2,500 approximately, the 2,500 rushing yards, but this is a unicorn that I don't know if we've ever seen it before. And it's beyond just, did you see him do a backwards hurdle? We saw it. Amazing.
You're going to see that.
But I'm talking about blasting people in pass protection.
Yep.
I'm talking about catching the ball out of the backfield. And I'm talking about his ability to break away from DBs in the open field. It's absolutely incredible. Spread's -1.5, right? Chiefs are laying 1.5 points. They're a 1.5 point favorite as of now. It hasn't moved much. It's kind of stayed there. It feels right. Feels like that's what the line should be. Anything under 3, we're kind of approaching a coin toss.
Yeah.
Just for some perspective, the Chiefs were a 1.5 point favorite at home against the Bills. I thought that was crazy. I couldn't believe they weren't a 3-point favorite. I was shocked. I don't care what you thought of, like, oh, they had a lot of close games this year. Maybe it was a little different this year. Maybe they're not the normal Chiefs. They're at home in the NFC Championship. They should always be at least a 3-point favorite. I know Josh Allen had been playing good ball, but the result shows itself, right?
Yeah.
What happens?
I think this will be a close game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Chiefs have played in close games. I think it'll come down to the wire.
What happens?
I think Jake Elliott kicks a.
What happens?
Jake Elliott will kick a walk-off winning field goal.
Really?
Yep.
So you think they're going to win by 3 or less? Because it could be a 2-point game or 1-point game.
I think the Eagles will win. I think it'll be close, though. I don't see, with these two teams and the quality of players and quality of coaches, I don't see anyone running away with it.
I don't think anyone's going to run away with it. But after we saw a Chiefs team win a Super Bowl last year, built differently, basically led by their defense, which again, one of the, maybe even the greatest player of all time as it is, one of the best talents we've ever seen in Patrick Mahomes, for them to basically be a defensive-led team last year and get a ring that way.
Yeah.
And this year still to be pretty tough as hell defensively, and have Mahomes finding ways to win games. Now, Travis Kelce's not the same player he was 3 years ago. That's obvious.
But he's still going to make some plays.
And he's going to show up in this game.
Yeah, he will. He's going to have a big game. He always does.
Right? He's a little bit older, but he's still moving
savvy.
just fine. He's very savvy. I think the Chiefs get this one done. Yeah. And the reason I feel that way is because of what I talked about earlier, getting the Eagles consistently in 3rd and 6 or more. I don't think we're going to see, like, for example, over-under on Saquon Barkley's longest run in the game is 24.5 yards in Vegas. Some people, if you look at what Saquon's done lately, you'd be like, oh, my God, take the over. I'm not so sure, right? Saquon's a special player. There's no question about that. But I think Steve Spagnuolo is going to step up and be like, we're going to do – and other teams have done this too. I get it. We're going to do everything we can to make sure 2-6 doesn't beat us. And we're going to put the ball back in Jalen Hurts' hands, who's also a special player, but we're not going to let 26 beat us, right? And because of that, and because you've got the greatest coach in the NFL in Andy Reid and the greatest quarterback in the NFL and Patrick Mahomes on the other side, I know they've done it 2 times in a row and 3rd time's difficult to do, but I'm going that way.
I respect that. I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
I don't have Philadelphia on my chest like you do.
Hey, you know what? I might have been a little biased, but I felt like we had a good conversation about it. And we both – I will say this. There's a lot of respect for both teams. Yeah. I think once you get to the Super Bowl, you got to give both teams respect. I know we started out with a lot of Kansas City respect. We both respect the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, I love the Philadelphia Eagles, and I will be cheering them on and expect a victory. But it'll be a good game.
We get a chance to watch greatness. We get a chance to watch Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes chase a three-peat. I wouldn't want it, going back to what I said earlier on the show, I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't get tired of watching this kind of stuff on this stage, this type of theater. This is going to be as good as it gets. I can't wait to watch the game.
No, I agree. Appreciate it, Evan.
Glad
fun, we could have a conversation about it. Boom.
Love you, dude.
Love you too. 6 years in the NFL, folks. 6 years.
He tried to take one away from me. That's a lot of 401k money right there.
I've been taking one away from him for 6 years. I actually didn't calculate that. I'm a bad brother-in-law.